I know that the committee staff has suggested a small set of amendments to strike the dollar amount and make technical changes, and of course I'll accept those amendments. So we still want to figure out the funding strategy for this effort. Let me talk for just a moment about the effort itself. This bill, SB 675, is intended to open a new front in the campaign to reduce the unacceptable number of students, 120,000 a year, who are dropping out of school. This is a strategy about making school more relevant so that students see the connection between staying in school and their ability to thrive in the new economy. The bill authorizes revenue-backed bonds starting in 2010 to invest in facilities and durable equipment for career technical education that gives students the skills and knowledge they will need to succeed in the green-collar workforce. This workforce will need to be populated by young people with a range of skills and expertise in the renewable energy and clean tech fields, from high school and community college graduates to those with bachelor's degrees and PhDs. As the bill is now written, although part of the work as we hopefully move ahead to fiscal committee will be to look at all of the potential funding options, including federal economic stimulus dollars. But currently the bill and the bond would be securitized by resources from the Public Interest Energy Research Fund, the PEER Fund, which is largely a research fund in and around renewable energy. We again appreciate the staff comments, working with the treasurer and the staff on the technical issues. I have a number of witnesses in support, and then, if you don't mind, I'd like to close. Thank you very much.
Let me then ask you, Senator Steinberg, in your closing, to address the concerns that have been raised in the analysis. We recognize this is a work in progress. This is the first hearing. It will go through many other hearings. I know that this is a cornerstone of your bill package this year. And if you could address for us questions related to the financing, the questions about whether or not this is a gift to public funds, what happens if some of these entities that receive these monies, if they fail. There's a number of concerns. Let me turn to Senator Wyland, who would also like to ask a question prior to your close.
First of all, I'd like to commend you, Senator Steinberg, and we've had many discussions about this and how important it is. We could spend and ought to spend days really reviewing this. I have to tell you that I despair often about our ability to deal with the unacceptable dropout rate, and you and I have talked about that, and you've had a select committee on that, and this addresses part of that. And the reason I despair is that I think, and having come from the private sector, that any company that had the problem we have with the dropout rate and what happens to these kids would either fail, and we see some failing right now, or would fix it fast. Where I think we need this quickly, and this does incorporate that, is in high schools. Community colleges are fine, but that's more advanced, because where we're losing kids is at 14 and 15, especially a lot of kids who are English language learners. They make it somehow through middle school, they're younger, they hit high school, they see an English textbook, it's hard to read, they're turned off. So that's where I hope we get most of this. One thing about funding and financing, I believe, and we can talk about this, I believe that a great deal of this would cost us nothing. The private sector is dying to do this, and I think we had some testimony from Cesar Diaz on this. We've seen a school in San Diego where this occurs, where the local contractors literally added and changed a high school, an existing high school, to make it CTE. They meet all the academic requirements, and all the construction and all the materials were donated, which is actually easy to do. So I hope that we can talk about that and a way to have that sometimes substitute for the district, because sometimes it's hard for a district to write a check, but the private sector, if we just sort of guide them, they'll do this, and they'll provide the equipment, and they'll even help with instruction, because some of this stuff we don't have instructors right there, and these instructors could also be. Well, we can talk a little bit about that. And the only final thing I'd say, and again, I'd like to talk to you some more about this, is we have an expanding, there's going to be a big expanding business in what we call green technology. But most of the skill set is a basic skill set. Mm-hmm. So if you're an electrician, which are great paying jobs, and you know the skills about how to do that work, doing that work in a building that's designed to meet all the various, like the LEED standards and all that, is simply an application of the basic skills that you learn. I think it's important to make sure that we give those kids the basic skills, because then they can go do everything else. And the only final thing two things I'd say is the interest in these programs extends across all groups. The difference is parents don't let middle-class kids drop out, because the middle-class parents have just as many kids. I've got the son of a friend of mine right now I'm trying to get into an apprenticeship program. He would have been a dropout if he had been an English language learner in East LA. So it's the same with all these kids. Like half the kids I went to high school with, it's just that the challenge for the other kids is they don't have that support. And finally, one of the reasons that we have let this go is because we don't respect people who do jobs other than the jobs that we think have a higher education. And we really ought to look at ourselves as a society and value and respect people who do jobs that don't always require a college degree. I worked with a lot of these people. They are great people and great citizens. And I think in doing this, if we respect them and help them, we'll achieve some great things. And I appreciate your interest in this very much.
Any other questions or comments? Senator, actually, before you speak, let me just acknowledge a note's been passed to me. We have with us ESL and GED adult students who are with us today from Florence Tech. Please stand, and we thank you for coming in today. Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I kind of dovetail with some of the comments of my colleague on this. Maybe a little different tack, but I'm just wondering why we would focus it on green. I understand everything's green these days, but I think the same skills are there, and certainly I'm for any career tech stuff.
Can I answer that?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Please. I have 4 or 5 sort of spot bills that I intend over time, and we have to be obviously sensitive to the fiscal situation here, but to replicate this structure to healthcare, to biotech, and pick your other 2 leading areas of future economic growth, and want to do this in every area. Green is just a place to start because there's a lot of interest, and obviously we have a lot of environmental goals, important environmental goals as well. But really, I hope it's a template for something much broader, and intended to be.
Okay. I'm wondering if we couldn't just have one big one that, has subcategories of, these are the things we'd like to encourage, but, that's your call.
This could change over as it moves, and if it does, of course, we'll bring it back to.
I have no doubt you can change it in any manner you wish.
Yes, yes.
Gee, let's see what else you can move on this then.
I would like to hear you address what the chair talked about as far as the gift of public funds.
Happy to go through
and
all
particularly when you talk about non-governmental agencies, that's a significant.
Sure.
Let's hear from a couple of other members, and then you can take all of this in your close.
Sure.
Senator Alquist first.
Thank you. President Pro Tem, I think this is a very forward-thinking bill. I have a great interest in the dropout rate, and certainly giving these students opportunities to go into one of the fastest-growing career fields in green tech, I think is really great. And I know it's a work in progress, and that you're taking amendments. I would love to be a co-author.
Of course.
And certainly, as you approach the other areas with biotech and healthcare, I would be very interested. And I know that you're going to answer Senator Huff's questions, but I would also like to move the bill as amended
Okay.
after he.
Yeah, let's conclude debate, and then we'll go ahead and take the motion. Senator Liu?
I too am thankful that you have are working on this topic. I am concerned about the use of peer funds, or how you're going to finance this. And I know it's a work in progress, but I know I'm concerned about it. You can address that in your closing, and I know
Sure.
you will address it subsequently.
Okay, you've heard the concerns from the committee, strong support from those looking at the movement for this bill. Why don't you go ahead and close?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members, for your positive comments, but also for your constructive critiques and your concerns. And let me address some of them. On the issue of who will guarantee the repayment of the bonds, that's something we're currently working with the Treasurer's Office on, and that language needs to be tightened up. And in the end, even though it is a revenue bond, I anticipate that the state of California needs to stand behind these bonds. On the issue of peer funds, I guess I can argue it two ways. On the one hand, I understand the concern about impacting peer funds because they are finite, and they are actually already, there's already a funding plan for peer funds all the way through 2012. And so the peer funds may not be the right source, and again, we're going to take the time to look at the best way to finance this. But I will say this, that the one thing about the peer funds that is attractive to me is that it does connect alternative energy research with education and creating the skilled workforce, because we can be the greatest inventors of anything in this state, and we are. But unless we connect those innovations back to young people and creating the pipeline of educated and skilled workers, we will never realize the full potential of those inventions. So I think in the end, probably the peer fund is not the right fund, given that it is impacted. But I do want to maintain that connection between infrastructure and research, and drawing the line back to public education. Okay? This issue of whether there should be a new council or the state allocation board should implement this, really, that's not a philosophical or ideological issue. Happy to work on that, and obviously don't want to duplicate or create new bureaucracy. We just want to make sure that there is the right focus. On the gift of public funds issue, and this really maybe gets to the core of sort of my thinking on this, and some people may say it's too far out. I don't know. We're talking to bond counsel specifically about the concern now. But, and this may sound like a rather conservative notion, or something that might come from the R side of the aisle. But I want emerging green business. I want industry to be able to take advantage of the debt capacity of the state of California on one condition. And that condition is that they partner with public educators to create the curriculum, the pathways, the internships, the after-school programs, and the jobs eventually for these young people. I'm willing to look at the same thing on the tax credit side, frankly. Is that a gift of public funds? I don't think that it would be. As long as we're connecting the two pieces, the job creation and the research with the education, I think that that's appropriate. And it's frankly an issue that I've said many times, that the D's and the R's can come together on. And it's a big, big agenda. Finally, I just want to acknowledge something, because there was a little press about it, and I want to acknowledge it. That, putting forward these new grand ideas that obviously have some financial impact, and at the same time, yeah, we cut ROP. And we eliminated some categoricals. And I'm unhappy about the fact that we had to do that as a result of our $41 billion budget problem. And I acknowledge to anybody listening out there that, that there is a seeming inconsistency. But I also believe very strongly that we have to be poised to begin reinvesting in what we know matters and what we know works when we come out of this. And that's why, as we deal with the budget crisis, and it's not quite over yet, hopefully we've been through the worst of it, we also have to be preparing for the future. And this bill is put forward in that spirit. Urge and I vote.